Mhm.
Hello and welcome to the Aten Inquisition, where we spend a little bit of time getting to know the members of the populace of Atenveldt. We're your hosts, Morgan and Elizabeth, King and Queen during these never-ending times of plague. Our guest this evening is Her Ladyship, Sancha. Sancha, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sancha. I have been playing in the SEA since grad school, since 1998, off and on after grad school. And then um, I like rapier, I like calligraphy and illumination, I like sewing, I like telling people what to do.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you find the SCA?
So I was in undergraduate, and some friends of mine and I had gone to a Ren fair where the SEA was doing a demo. I thought, oh, that's really interesting. That'd be kind of cool. But it just kind of sat in the back of my head. And then later on, when I was in grad school, I was like, I have no social life. I can't stand this anymore. I decided to look up the SEA again, and lo and behold, there was a chapter at the university. I was like, this is perfect. So I joined, and I met a great bunch of people. In fact, some of these people I still know today. Duke Jonathan von Trotha, he was studying for his history degree, and because he was a knight, he was volunteering to help out with the group. And so I got to meet him then, and he kind of took me under his wing, and I learned a lot about playing the SCA with him, and meeting a bunch of people, and it was really, really a lot of fun.
So have you always played here in Atenveldt?
No, so I started here in Atenveldt, and then after grad school, I went up to the Outlands. I played a little bit there. Then I have played in Anstiora, in the Outlands, and yeah, and Atenveldt. That's it. Those three. Just keep bouncing around between them.
Do you have a favorite?
That's a loaded
Oh, well,
question.
Right?
Atenveldt's my home.
So most
I've
of us,
met great people in those other places,
Of course.
and learned a lot. They have some great traditions, but the place that you start, the place where you first learn everything about the SEA and make those foundational relationships, that stays with you.
I don't know that I've ever considered that.
so everybody I've ever talked to always has that one pivotal moment, that one story that they love to tell about why they're here. Like what kept them? What was that one thing for you? That one moment?
I wouldn't say it's like one moment, but it's lots of little moments. It's um, getting to go to a camping event where I get to hang out with my friends and have these just great conversations with them while we're sitting around the fire drinking. All the times I've been around the campfire at Hoffenheim sharing mead, those have been wonderful. Um, the first time I came off a battlefield and was like, oh my God, that was so much fun. It's those moments that keep me coming back. Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's any one thing, but it's a lot of little things that just like, yes, this is why I'm here. This is why I keep coming back.
So tell us about your persona and your heraldry.
I'm sorry, I missed the last half of that.
Your persona and heraldry.
So my persona is Sancha Galindo de Toledo. She is a 14th century Spaniard living in Toledo. I've been playing, that's where I started. Actually, started in the SA with doing kind of everything, and then settled into 14th century because I love coteries and I look good in coteries. And I've just been sort of exploring later period, not solely because my husband is later period, but because I actually like some of the clothing. So I've also been playing around with a Flemish persona, which, considering the influence of the Spaniards in the Netherlands, is totally appropriate.
Mhm.
And then my heraldry is, I'm going to do this in English because I can't do heraldese. It's a blue field with a gold owl, and then 4 gold stars and 4 white circles, 4 white rondelles in a circle around it. And the owl came from my alma mater, Rice University. Their device has 3 owls in it. And I absolutely love Bubo from Clash of the Titans, the original one. And I was like, yes, I have to have that. And then the rest of it was just about, like stars and moons. So, and blue, I love the color blue.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are your goals?
What are my goals? It's kind of funny. Like, I would say originally it was, I wanted to be a laurel, and then I wanted to be a white scarf, and now it's more like I just want to be as good as I can be at whatever it is I'm trying to do. In part because it's the thing that I can control.
Mhm.
I can control how much work I put into it, and how much time. I can't control what other people think or what other people do in a circle. So I would love to be up here, but my goal is I'm going to try to be as good as I can, whether it's at fighting, which can't do much about with that right now, or with the arts, or heaven forbid, with volunteering for work.
Yep. So, are there any arts or, uh, tasks, jobs, that sort of thing that you're particularly proud of that you've done in the SCA context?
Okay, so I love doing CNI. I'm That's one of the things I'm really good at, and it's one of the things I really enjoy. Like, I can just totally get lost, with my nose about an inch away from a painting, just trying to get all the fiddly bits just right. And I've learned to appreciate calligraphy. It's not my favorite, but I have learned to appreciate it and how it finishes the scroll. The right, font with the right hand on the right scroll can really tie it all together. So that's one thing I really get into. I also really get into the logistics of an event, like the whole planning of everything. Who's going to be doing what? When do they need to? Does that need to happen? Who needs to be coordinating with who? My husband and I have done a lot of feasts in the past, and the thing I loved doing was the service. How do we get the food from the kitchen to the servers, and try to do it in, like, say, under 2 hours?
Mhm.
So we worked on a lot of tricks of, staging food at certain times and pacing ourselves, prepping things ahead of time, having a plan for what we're going to be telling the servers. Actually, a lot of the tricks that I learned there were like, write everything down. If you don't have to come to me to find out the answer, like, what am I supposed to do with this? If it's already written down and you can just keep going there, that's half of my job. And then I'm free to deal with, hey, something just exploded.
Hopefully not actually explode.
No, we've never had anything exploded. We just had like a plate full of desserts go missing.
Oops.
Yes, I gave somebody the evil eye on that one.
Wasn't me. Telling you it wasn't me.
Okay.
So, what's something that you found, like in your course of your time in the SCA, that you really loved, that was maybe not inside of your normal path of what you were, your normal likes?
Actually, fencing. I had never been very into sports growing up. But you kind of get the whole Errol Flynn cool adventure movie type thing, and you're like, okay, that'd be fun to try, but I don't know if I'm any good at it. And actually, for the first couple of years that I was doing it when I was in grad school, it was just kind of swishy poke, let's have fun. But it didn't really click very much for me. But it wasn't until much later when I came back to it and I started really kind of paying attention and spending some time and working at it. I had a moment where my aggression kicked in a fight that had never kicked in before. And I went from, oh, this is interesting, I have an opponent, to, I'm going to kill you. And I went, whoa, I don't know how to deal with this.
That's new.
Oh, what's going on?
Was that Mingo?
What? No, actually it wasn't. It wasn't Mingo. But he's learned eventually to fear my blade. No, it was actually against a newbie fighter, but it was one of those things of, it just, for some reason in that fight, it clicked in. And now I actually kind of look forward to that like adrenaline rush. And it was not something I thought I would ever get into.
Is there anything you would like to try that you haven't tried yet?
I actually would like to try a little bit of armored combat. It would be interesting to see what it's like to be in that kind of crush. It's a lot more physical, a lot more direct, a lot of clashing and running into each other than it is on the rapier field. I'd be curious to see how I react.
I think you'd surprise yourself.
Could be.
So what are you known for?
What am I known for? I would say I'm known for being able to put together a scroll really quickly if you need it. Like I actually did a scroll in a day for an ANS event so that they would have a scroll to give out to the youth award. I can work pretty fast. Don't necessarily get all fancy, but I can work pretty fast and come up with a pretty decent scroll. Also knowing where the spoons are. So I had moved here, had a Chuck or Mingo. And so I was here for about 6 months. He was still in Texas, packing up all our stuff, and he had gone to a camping event. And I get this call, and it's Mingo. And he's like, honey, I'm at the event. Where are the spoons? And I'm like, honey, I'm in another state. I didn't pack anything. Why are you asking me? Well, I can't find the spoons. I don't know where they are. Okay, honey. Well, how about you look in this drawer, in this box, over on that side of the tent? And he goes over there and he looks in that drawer, in that box, on that side of the tent. And sure enough, that's where the spoons are. And he's like, you're a godsend. You're a saint. I love you. Bye. I'm like, okay. That was kind of crazy, but I didn't know where the spoons were.
That's impressive. What is your advice for a new member?
I would say if you're starting out, 2 things. 1, try lots of different things. Try fighting, try lots of different arts, try volunteering, doing lots of different kinds of jobs, meet lots of people. Don't get stuck into a niche too quickly, either a niche of friends or a niche of a job or a niche of an activity. Try lots of different things and see what really clicks for you, because there's lots of things that I never thought I would get into, like rapier, that just because I tried it out turned out to work really well. Yeah, and that applies to time periods, to clothing, to research interests. Just try lots of different things when you're starting out, because you never know what's going to pique your interest.
I think it's good advice.
Mm-hmm.
So who inspires you?
Who inspires me? So a lot of people have been really foundational for helping me along in my career in the SCA. Like I said, Duke Jonathan was one of the first peers to ever take me under his wing and say, here's all the things that you could be doing. Here's all these people that you can meet. And there have been lots of people like that along the way. Actually, my husband Bingo is an inspiration, because he just has a joy and infectious energy about lots of different things. Like he'll sit there and actually get all really excited about, look at these brass things that I found that mount onto your belt and they're really cool. I'm like, okay, yes, that is actually really interesting.
Is it me?
Yeah.
It's me. How are you staying busy during COVID?
Doing a lot of CNI. So I try to go onto the Kingdom, the Southern Scriptorium weekly Zoom as much as I can. And that's been good, both from they give me jobs to work on and that keeps my fingers busy, but also I get to socialize with people again. So that's been really nice. I haven't been doing a lot of fencing just because it's been hard to get the motivation to practice when you know you're not going to be able to fight somebody else, and having that challenge. But now that, not that we're out of it, but that we're getting closer, we can start to see the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
I've actually noticed, I've been like, oh, I'm actually more interested. Hey, maybe I'll pull out that knitting project, or maybe I'll pull out I'll start to make some more chemises because I know I'm running out of chemises. And just starting to feel that energy again.
Good.
I got to find my energy. So, there's always, kingdom centric traditions that have, and you've played for a fair number of years.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any tradition that you feel like we've lost over the years that you'd like to see come back?
Ooh. Not that I can think of off the top of my head. No, I mean, one thing that's actually been cool about living in a couple of different kingdoms is I get to see different traditions. Like in Outlands, they don't do the huzzas. They do vivat. And it takes a while to get used to, and then you're like, oh, okay, this is perfectly normal now. In Anstiora, the queen crowns herself. It's a different tradition. I just kind of find that interesting. And it makes you stop and look back at what you grew up with and kind of re-examine it. And sometimes it's, yes, it's still good. It's totally worthy, or sometimes no, maybe it's worth reconsidering.
So what's your favorite tradition?
I love the peer dog pile. Like when somebody gets offered and then all the peers come up and it turns into this just huge group hug. I love that. I love watching that. I love watching the person who's being offered just usually break down and start crying. Like that's just wonderful. In fact, the time that I got to be head lady and waiting for Duchess Osa, the best part was being able to stand behind the thrones and watch all the people getting their awards and just the emotions and everything. It was just wonderful.
That's the one thing that we've been missing during COVID.
Yeah.
Is doing court without that part.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard.
Well, and you do have a thing for the ugly cry, so.
I do enjoy a good ugly cry. So are there any traditions that you'd like to go away?
Traditions I'd like to go away. How controversial do you want to go?
Oh, now I want to know.
Yeah, now you have to.
So I would say the one thing that I would like to change is not so much as tradition as just kind of a mindset that we've had of rapier fighters and basically the entire rapier community kind of being second to armored combat. And I don't want to take anything away from armored combat because the work that you guys put in is amazing, and it's definitely, it takes dedication in order to be good. But there's still some old fuddy-duddies that kind of look at like us and go, oh, you're just a bunch of wire weenies,
Mm-hmm.
When I'm old and broken, maybe I'll look at what you guys are doing, but until then, and I'm not saying that we're better or we take a more dedication, because we don't. What we do takes a lot of work in order to be really good. I just want us to be on par.
Mhm.
That's all.
I could get behind that.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, as somebody that's on the other side, um, my perception was completely changed the first time I won crown and I watched the rapier community embrace my lady and the way they treated her from that moment. Um, that's when I got all of the respect in the world for
Yep.
for the rapier community. So
Yeah. And that is one thing that I would love to see more of. If there's a tradition I want to see improve, would be having a stronger relationship between the rapier community and the roses and the queens. Um, it can be incredibly rewarding having that strong a bond.
I could get behind that too. So what's your favorite event?
My favorite event. I'm not going to say Estrella, although there's lots of things I love about Estrella. 12th night. I really love 12th night because the whole point of that event is I'm going to go hang out with my friends and have fun. Like there's no agenda, there's no specific thing we're trying to get accomplished that day. It is strictly camaraderie, friendship, and enjoyment. You know, it's being with your family.
so on that note, what makes the perfect event for you?
Perfect event. From a attendee point of view or from an organizer point of view?
Yes.
From an organizer point of view, the perfect event is I have everything planned out. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. And the only things that people are coming up to me and asking me questions on are the random things that pop up. Everything is running smoothly. Nobody sees all the manic running around behind the scenes. Everybody that's attending the event is like, everything is going so smoothly. That to me is the perfect event from that point of view. From an attendee, I get to see my friends. We get to sit down and have great conversations about things, lots of different topics. I get to see people getting awards and crying up on stage. You know, just that to me is the perfect event. If they're fighting at some events, is there art at some events, but it's always I get to see my friends, we get to have great conversations, and I get to see people cry.
Okay. If there
We're
was
good.
if there was something that you could add to events that maybe doesn't exist right now that you think would make them better, what would that thing be?
Something to add to events. That is an interesting question. Um, Actually, so this is something that's come up recently when we were doing a lot of research on the um, fighter practices and their impacts. And one of the things that we found out from the survey was how hard it was for smaller groups to actually get visibility, to the point where a lot of people in smaller groups don't even think they have a chance of becoming a peer in either of the fighting skills. So what I would like to see is like more incorporation of a small fighter practice at almost every event. Just so that there's always the expectation of if we're going to be doing a lot of things today, give yourself a couple of hours over here and we're going to have a little fighter practice and you're going to get a chance to work out with some other people, meet people on the fighting field you've never had the chance to see before, and broaden that awareness. have a chance to see, have a chance to be seen, have a chance to fight people who fight in a different way than you do, than what you're used to and where you're from. Yeah, that's what I would like to see.
I like that.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite out of kingdom event?
Favorite out of kingdom event. Again, I'm not going to say Penzic. As much as I enjoy going to Penzic, like you could spend the entire time at Penzic just going to classes and
Yeah.
shopping. Oh my God, the shopping.
Mhm.
But for as much of the drama that happened the first year that we went to Battlemore, I really enjoyed Battlemore. I really enjoyed BAM down in Anstiora. Both of those really great events, smaller events. You got to see a lot of people. It was just really well done. That and BAM at least has a castle. That's always cool.
That's the thing.
So is there anything in particular that makes those events special?
Well, like I said, BAM's got a castle. That's always fun to get a chance to actually fight in something that even remotely looks like a castle, with stairs and a second level, which is always fun. And then Battlemore, for me, that's a chance to get to see a bunch of my friends from the Outlands. And like I said, the first year had some drama, mainly because this was at a different site, was at the first site that they were at, which was right up in the foothills, right up against a mountain. And the organizers were being very nice and saying, hey, Outlands, let's put you up here on this hill. It's nice and pretty flat and open. There's no trees, so you'll have plenty of room. What they didn't realize was that at night, the wind came blowing down from the mountain and our tents were falling over.
Yep.
I mean, there were the mundane pop-ups with the little spring supports. They were like almost flat. They were touching people's noses because the wind was blowing them so hard. We had our tent fall down on top of us. Nearly every camp in the Atenveldt camp had at least one broken either main support or column. And yet, for all of that, it was great to see all of my friends.
It's funny, we were at that event too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And for quite a few years after, we didn't miss a Battlemore.
Mhm.
Like we were, it wasn't until just as of late that we missed any of them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it was a good war, even with the wind.
Even with the
And
wind.
there was so much wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You couldn't sleep at night. There was just it was just so loud.
We actually got a hotel that second year because the wind had been so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then we decided that's not the way to go either. So
having to leave site every night was terrible.
Yeah. It's not as much fun.
So I'm going to go off script and ask,
Yep.
Tell us about how you met Mingo.
Ironic, that was.
How I met Mingo. So in grad school and hanging out with Duke Jonathan and his household. And I went to an event and Jonathan introduced me to Master Domingo. Actually, at that point, just Lord Domingo. He hadn't gotten his laurel yet. And I actually met him at the event where he got his laurel. And we started talking and just hanging out, we started talking clothing. And little by little, we just kept hanging out. We knew we had lots of friends in common. In fact, Duke Jonathan and Master Mingo were both stationed in Germany. Mingo in the Air Force and Jonathan in the Army. And so they played in Drakenwald together.
Oh.
And so that's how they met. And then because he met, they were friends, he introduced me and we just got to be really good friends. We'd go to events and hang out together and do lots of, just talk about a lot of different things. And in fact, I was seriously considering asking him to be my laurel. And then I got a job after graduating from grad school and had to move. I ended up going out to Texas. And so had moved away. Then it came back years later. And in fact, Mingo was the first person I saw at Estrella that I knew when that first year that I came back. And we ended up talking for like 20 minutes, him like just hanging out on the side of my car because he was heading out to the battlefield and I was coming in to go to troll. And we just started blah, 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 blah. And we're like, okay, this is interesting. You're married. Please go away. But we brought our friendship back up, and then he got a divorce, and suddenly, hey, and we just started dating, and it was like, I made the right choice making him my husband, not my Laurel.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yes.
Start with the heavy questions then?
Yeah, you can ask the heavy one.
Okay, so the heavy question is, what does peer mean to you?
What does peer mean to me? Peer is an example. They are the person who is going to think before they speak, who is going to try to make every encounter that they have with a less experienced person something good. Maybe not memorable, but good. And that's not to say that like everything has to be super serious or intense, but just they are going to be the example of this is how we behave in the SCA. We are polite, we're friendly. If you have something you're interested in, we either tell you what we know about it, or we point you over to the person who does. That to me is the peers, that they're the example to go by. That's the person I would want to be like.
So then, sort of springboarding off of that, is there anything that you think the peers as a whole could do better?
I would say actually making it more transparent what it is that they are looking for. Mm-hmm. And that applies to all the peerages. What is it that you're really looking for? If there is somebody you think is on the track but maybe needs some help or has a few issues they need to work on, being honest with them, being direct with them, saying, hey, we like what you're doing, but we're a little concerned about this, or we need you to continue to develop this because you're going in the right direction, but you're not quite there yet. Making it much more open and direct, and less of there's this curtain that comes down and we have all these discussions behind the curtain and you don't know what it is and you don't know what you're supposed to do in order to keep moving along your path. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, and sadly, that the mother load of that should fall on their peer, the student's peer.
Right.
Should be.
Right, and definitely, if their peers should be having conversations with them about this is what I'm hearing from other peers, this is what I think you need to be working on, but not everybody has a peer.
Right.
And so those people, especially the peers that are in the circle that are hearing about them, that know them, should be coming to them and saying, this is what I'm hearing. This is what we think you need to work on. This is how can I help? Because again, not the decision to take somebody as your peer, to ask or be asked by them, is important enough a decision to take seriously. It's on the par of, making a decision to be in a relationship with somebody. Sure, you can start it with a few dates where you try to figure out if you even like the person, but that step of no, okay, let's actually start dating. It's a commitment, and you may not always find the right person for you for what you're wanting to pursue, or you may have your own issues. You may be a little commitment phobic. I'm actually not in peer or in a student relationship with a peer. I'm in a student relationship with a Don and a Danya. But that decision to make that connection took me a long time and a lot of thought. And I'm certainly don't regret it, and I'm glad I'm in it, but it's not necessarily easy for everybody to kind of just jump into that. Because I won't say I've been it. I've watched a number of those relationships break up.
Yeah.
And
It could be
it
bad.
is just like two people who are dating breaking up. It can be ugly. It can be painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Occasionally it's amicable, but it can get ugly.
Yeah, I'm super technical about it because it's, if you want to be my student, I want a list of what you expect from the relationship, what your expectations are from me, and what your expectations are of yourself. And then I do the same.
Exactly.
And we make sure that we're on target. If we're not, then we realize we're not a good fit.
That, and we insist on camping with them,
Mhm.
with the whole family.
Yeah, with our whole household, all of our other students too, because we hate drama, so everybody has to get along. So if you can't get along with the rest of the house,
Yep.
it's not a good fit.
Yeah, and I've seen it with Mingo and the and his apprentices, of the discussions back and forth about what do you expect. He doesn't have quite the same relationship as we would expect from a squire, say,
Mhm.
and that's part of his own philosophy about the difference between an apprentice and an esquire. So having those conversations about what's expected if you're trying to do one thing versus you're trying to do the other is always important.
Absolutely.
In fact, I remember having having to help some friends. One was a peer and one was a student, get through that because one had an idea that they were going to hang out together all the time, and the other one was like, no, I have this other life with these other people that I camp with, and it was just a matter of they didn't talk to each other enough.
Yeah.
Important.
Mm-hmm.
So your formative years included a lot of time with Duke Jonathan, and I really enjoy Duke Jonathan stories. So if you have a particularly humorous one, I'd love to hear it.
Oh God. Let's see. When I met Duke Jonathan, he had hair all the way down the middle of his back, none on top, but just down his back. um, um, it was funny. Like, I loved being able to be in his household when he was reigning and seeing everything from that point of view, and the effort that he made of reaching out and being open, and understanding that the job of being king and queen really is to be of service to the populace,
Absolutely.
be out there and to be outgoing and to try to get everybody in and enjoy themselves. So yeah, I mean, I remember we would at Estrella at the after grand court, and we had this huge pile of largesse, and just going through the largesse and figuring out, all right, which stuff does Jonathan want? Which stuff should we be prepared to give out to other people? And again, it was just kind of hanging out in a camp late at night with the fire going through the stuff, and just having really nice conversations.
Yeah, no, he is really good at that. He's actually the first crown that ever actually talked to me,
Mm-hmm.
because I was just a mercenary in the beginning. And he was actually the first one, because of that, was one of the ones that made me consider going down a different path.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yep.
In a minute.
Well, I remember I was at Australia with him and his family, and this is when his two daughters, I mean, I think his youngest was just born, and his eldest was like maybe a year old. And I'm holding her because we're trying to keep everybody wrangled while other stuff is going on. And I have a medallion on. I've got an award that I've just won on, and she's playing with it. And then she's got this tiny little baby bud mouth. It's so small. And then she's playing with this big medallion. I'm thinking, oh, this is fine. And then suddenly her mouth opens up. Ow! It takes the whole thing in her mouth. And I'm like, no, no, don't die on me. Don't die on me. And we're like, no, pulling it out. Oh, that one scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, kids will do that to you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you and Mingo find yourselves in the kitchen at events all the time. There has to be a story that you love telling around the campfire that has to do with that.
Let's see, we've done enough events together that we have a shorthand. We don't even need to work out too much ahead of time. Like, we just know how the other one works. And he's the thing actually that I love about working with him is he totally respects that once the food crosses the line onto my side of things, it's my job. And it's like, she can handle it. That's her job. I don't have to tell her anything. Let's see, there was the 12th night up in Kerta where like I said, a whole plate of desserts disappeared. And we're like, I know you guys made this stuff. I know you made this. Well, we can't find it. We don't know where it is. Don't tell me you don't know where it is. And we figured it out there. We never did find it, but we were able to move some things around and because we always make more than anybody could possibly eat. So we spread it out and we made it work. I actually loved that event because that was the first time my adrenaline kicked in for service. I was on an adrenaline high for 3 hours, just running all over the place, trying to make sure everything was working right and everybody knew what was going on. That when the event ended and the feast was done and the king and queen had stepped down and everybody's just milling around, I just kind of sat down and went, I was gone. I was out.
It does have a way, running events and kitchens and what have you, of just absolutely taking it out of you.
Yeah. And the thing is, I love hanging around in a kitchen because there was always something for me to do there. Even if it's just, can you please wash some dishes? Can you chop some vegetables? There's always a job which can fill up the time, which then gives you the opportunity to actually get to meet the other people that you're working with and have a conversation with. As opposed to, I'm just going to hang around in the hall and I hope I meet somebody that I know. And if I don't, maybe I'll strike up a conversation. But in the kitchen, I know exactly what I can do. I can help out. And then I get to meet other people and we get to talk about, like, why are the knives are so dull, or where can I find this thing? It gives you a framework to kind of slot yourself into and feel comfortable and then get to meet people.
Yeah, I would say the same is true for most volunteer positions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I find that I'm the happiest when I have a job at an event.
That's fair. Gives purpose and all of that.
Exactly.
I'd just be happy if I could take a nap.
You're not good at that.
I'm terrible at it because there's always something to do.
Mhm.
There's always something to do.
He's like a 2-year-old. If there's something happening, he's got to be there.
I don't sleep much at
Mhm.
events.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Enzic's the worst because things don't die down.
Oh,
till the
no,
sun
they
comes
don't.
up.
They do not. There's always some place you can go to have some fun.
You have anything else?
I do not. Do
You
you?
don't. You're out. How can
I'm
you be
out.
out of questions? You never quit asking me questions. I'm gonna get smacked.
Nah.
It has been lovely getting to know you better, though.
It has been.
Thank you.
You know, like we've certainly, had conversations here and there over the years, but I did not know how deep your path was. So it's really nice to hear some of those stories.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for being willing to join us and be a victim of the Inquisition.
You're welcome.
And I'm hoping that we get to actually see each other in person soon.
Yes.
We're getting closer.
Keeping our fingers crossed.
Right. So,
Although it's gonna be like this.
right.
I'll take anything.
Yep, right? It's like meeting people for the first time because you don't recognize them. It's like,
Mhm.
it's-
Yes. Yes.
All right, Sancha, thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk with you again soon.
Alrighty. Goodbye.
You gotta do this. Can you do it?